Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I'm on. Yeah, so hopefully you all can hear me and everything. I'm waiting for a couple of people to tune in so that I can confirm that the audio is fine and the visuals are fine. I just got a message saying reconnecting. So I need to find out if you all can hear me okay before I get started. I'm still waiting for a couple of people to tune in. So I'll just wait a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes for people to tune in before I get into this content. I see that we have a couple of people here. So if you can let me know if you hear me okay, I would appreciate it. Let me know, leave a comment. If you can hear me fine, throw up a one. If you can see me fine, throw up the ones. I just want to know before I go ahead and start spending time on this content. Okay, so Covina Man says that he can hear me fine. Thanks for that. Shout out to you. I truly appreciate it. So let me get right into it. So shout out to the other person that tuned in, letting me know that you can hear me. I truly appreciate it. So today I was on Facebook and I saw a couple of articles about Minister Louis Farrakhan. And basically, the articles were saying that Facebook banned Minister Louis Farrakhan, Alex Jones, Milo Yiannopoulos, and some other people. And these people have been designated as dangerous by Facebook. And Facebook has basically purged them from all of their platforms. So Farrakhan has been purged from Facebook and those other people as well. And they have also been purged from Instagram, from what I understand, because Facebook owns Instagram. And shortly before this, Facebook talked about how they were going to get rid of white nationalists on their platform as well. And, a lot of people were celebrating that. And part of me celebrated that. But when I see what's happening right now, it raises serious questions. And I'll get into that in a minute. Um, so in this article, they were talking about how Facebook considered several factors when they decided who they were going to ban from Facebook. So they considered whether or not the person called for violence based on race, ethnicity, or national origin. They also considered whether or not the person used racial slurs or any other kind of slurs before. They considered whether or not pages had been removed for hate speech before as well. So those were the types of things that they factored in to their decision as to whether or not to ban someone from Facebook. Now, not only did they ban these people, including Minister Louis Farrakhan, they are also saying that they have the right to restrict others who voice support for these people. So if somebody does a post on Facebook, praising Minister Louis Farrakhan or any of these other people, Facebook is saying that they had a right to restrict that content as well. Or if somebody reposts something from Farrakhan or the Nation of Islam, they can restrict that person. So that's the situation going on. And what I want to do is just share my thoughts about this. Um, share my thoughts about what's going on and everything, provide my viewpoint. And then, but before I do that, I'm going to check your comments. Um, Also, in this article, they pointed out how people were saying that this was designed to generate positive publicity for Facebook. So before I go into my commentary, what I want to do is just look at what you all are saying in the chat room. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Uh, so Covina Man said that they had to throw someone in as black while banning all those white nationalists, those white supremacists. And somebody basically said they're trying to ban all those who expose Zaya Khan, Genie Energy bankers. they're using that language of these people that are anti-Semitic that think Jews control everything. So they're basically saying they're trying to ban people that challenge Zionists and stuff like that. I'm not one that believes in those conspiracy theories and stuff like that. I don't support like Alex Jones. I think he's a nut. I think he's a um, you know, right wing nut. A crazy conspiracy dude. Just another hustler and stuff like that. I don't have any respect for Alex Jones or people that use that similar type of rhetoric. And I'm going to get into this later. I'm going to talk about what I think about Farrakhan and all that kind of stuff in a second. So just bear with me. Covina man saying I was hoping that they would ban um, racial extremists like Tariq, the Black Authority, and Boyce Watkins. And and somebody said that the CIA used these white supremacists to try to normalize Farrakhan's ban. Shout out to Gab Talk TV. Thanks for tuning in. So somebody asked, did Farrakhan say something recently that was controversial on Facebook? No, it's not about Farrakhan saying anything recently. That wasn't mentioned in any of the articles that I read. They just decided to ban him, and a lot of things that they keep citing is him being a quote unquote anti-Semite and all that kind of stuff. They're saying he's anti-Semitic and this and that. I mean, you all have been hearing that for years. People saying that Farrakhan is an anti-Semite, that he's a bigot, and all this kind of stuff. So there was nothing new going on. I mean, Facebook decided to do this for whatever reason, and I'm going to speculate on as to why they decided to do this in a second. But let me just first talk about a few issues dealing with this. Number one, like some people will say, oh, this infringes on the First Amendment, your freedom of speech, and all that kind of stuff. But people don't understand. Like a lot of people don't understand the First Amendment. They don't understand that the First Amendment applies to government action. It doesn't apply necessarily to private action. Facebook is a private company. Facebook has the right to define what kind of speech that they're willing to accept. So it's a private forum and they can regulate that forum as they see fit. And people that get on Facebook have to abide by Facebook's rules and regulations and stuff. So this does not create you know, a First Amendment issue per se, like in terms of bringing a type of situation where you can bring a First Amendment lawsuit saying that they're violating your First Amendment right. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out. And I think that anybody that's using Facebook or even here on YouTube, what you have to do is be aware of the rules and regulations and stuff like that of the particular platform. And we know that how they implement the rules are biased and stuff like that. And, they can use it to just get rid of controversial speech that they don't like. And one thing that YouTube is doing to kind of deter controversial speech, for instance, like unlike Facebook, what YouTube is doing is they're basically penalizing people for talking about controversial subjects. So they have essentially demonetized many channels like my channel to make it more difficult for people to reap AdSense dollars and stuff like that. They make it hard. So on my channel, for instance, if I do any video about damn near anything, YouTube will automatically demonetize it. And I will have to challenge the decision. And a lot of times they decide, oh, well, you're right, this shouldn't be demonetized. But sometimes they decide that what I'm talking about is so controversial that it shouldn't be monetized. And and I just want to talk about that for a second. I'm going to talk about YouTube and then I'll get back to Facebook. But many people don't realize that they basically shot themselves in the foot. Like you had all these people campaigning against certain YouTubers because these YouTubers were putting out controversial content. And I think that some of these people actually went to YouTube sponsors to complain, to basically say, why are you putting your ads on these controversial YouTubers' videos and stuff? I'm sure they spoke out against people like a Tommy Sotomayor and other people that have said controversial things, extremist type of things or whatever. And because of that, these companies sat back and they listened to these complaints and they said, "Hold up, we're pulling all of our stuff from YouTube because YouTube is running our ads on this objectionable content." And because of that, YouTube went to the extreme and they said, "Well, we're demonetizing anything political, just about anything controversial and all that kind of stuff." So because people were trying to censor one type of speech, punish one type of speech, YouTube has basically created a situation where they're punishing a wide range of speech by demonetizing people. And in some cases, channels are getting taken down and stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, the reason why I brought that up is because it's like a slippery slope, and that's what you see on Facebook. Like, so people, I'm sure a lot of people were celebrating the fact that Facebook was saying, well, we're going after these white nationalists. We're not going to post their content anymore. People were probably like, that's great. No more racist content on Facebook. But they didn't realize that Facebook would use a similar tactic to eliminate other types of speech. And I think that this is probably just the beginning, man. It starts with a Farrakhan. They'll take somebody like a Farrakhan, and then from there, they'll be censoring other types of speech, banning other types of speech, to the point where Facebook basically removes all controversial type of content and it becomes bland with just personal stuff and a lot of apolitical type of stuff. And basically what this will do is close out alternative voices, silence alternative voices. And it starts on Facebook, and then pretty soon it'll be on YouTube, where they'll be cutting and restricting all kinds of speech. And you won't even be able to talk about controversial subjects. And we'll be back to a situation where you have gatekeepers telling you what kind of information gets out to the public. Just like, I mean, on television, you have gatekeepers, where it's only people in the establishment that are given a platform in mainstream media to express their views. So you had that same lame dog and pony show where you have Democrats versus Republicans, that narrow view of politics, of political ideology, where you just have one or the other, a two-party type of dictatorship and stuff, where you have the traditional liberal against the traditional conservative. When the political um, spectrum is much larger than that, when there are so many different types of viewpoints besides that, but mainstream media limits you to only those two perspectives. Only the moderate type of Democrats and, the traditional conservatives or even far right conservatives. That's what you get in mainstream media. And if we don't, take action, that's what you will see on Facebook and on YouTube and stuff, where you only have a limited amount of political perspectives being able to voice their views. And that creates a situation where you have a herd mentality, where you have, a sheep mentality and stuff like that, where you have basically a situation of mind control, where they are basically telling you what views are acceptable and what views are not. One of the great things about social media is that you don't have those gatekeepers, or you didn't have them. It seems like they're trying to get back to a situation where you have those gatekeepers that want to, limit the types of voices that are heard. And when they do provide alternative voices, what they do is they try to demonize those voices, distort those voices, and attack those voices instead of allowing those voices to reach the people directly. Um, and that's what you see. I mean, when they place these restrictions on Facebook and when it gets to YouTube, you're going to have the same bland voices that you hear on your MSNBCs or your CNNs or, Fox News and all that kind of stuff, ABC. The same old people. ABC never has radical type of voices on it. MSNBC, for the most part, they don't have radical voices on it, or even CNN. They have these acceptable, palatable type of speakers and commentators. They don't have any black militants on any of those mainstream shows for the most part. And it seems like, unfortunately, we're entering a situation where they're trying to make social media just like the mainstream media, where you have these limited number of voices that are allowed to express their views and stuff. And what they're doing is silencing voices that speak from alternative perspectives. And, some people will say, well, I don't agree with Farrakhan, and I don't like what he says about Jews, so he needs to go and stuff like that. And I understand why people don't agree with everything Farrakhan says or whatever. But then these people that are criticizing Farrakhan don't realize that the same standard that they're using to silence on Farrakhan will be the same standard that they will use to silence you. To silence you. I mean, even if you express some support for some of the things Farrakhan does that are positive, they can use that as a basis to restrict what you're trying to say on Facebook. And I think that that's wrong. And like when it comes to Farrakhan, even though I don't agree with everything Farrakhan says, I respect the brother. For all these years, for decades, this brother has been a part of the Nation of Islam. And despite, criticism that people may have towards the ideology or the theology of the Nation of Islam, the good that they have done is undeniable in terms of cleaning up people, getting people to live a righteous life, a moral life, getting people off of drugs and out of gangs, making people productive citizens in this society. That contribution is undeniable. Teaching men how to be men, to be providers and protectors in the community. That's commendable. That's respectable. Making men and women keep their word, making their word their bond and stuff like that. Building businesses and schools and things of that nature. That is commendable. That is respectable. And, a brother like Farrakhan deserves respect for the things that he has done that are positive. And for that reason, that's part of the reason why I'm speaking out on this issue. Because even though I may disagree with Farrakhan on some issues like theology or even some of his political philosophy, I stand with the brother when it comes to this issue. He should not be banned from Facebook. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that they would ban his brother. And I think they reflect away from a lot of negative publicity that Facebook has received. Negative publicity dealing with the whole Russian situation, where you had Russians setting up all these fake accounts both on Facebook and on Twitter, flooding the political scene with misinformation, information to divide American people against one another to help get Donald Trump elected. So they've been receiving a lot of negative publicity about that. They've received a lot of negative publicity dealing with Cambridge Analytica, I think that's the name of it, where they accessed a lot of personal information. And then recently, last month, there were articles about how Facebook had violated users' private information, like over 500 million private records were publicly exposed. And Facebook was being condemned for that. Time and time again, Facebook has been criticized for making private information public. And what better way to distract people, to deflect from the issue, than to say, well, we're going to ban these people that people don't like. We're going to ban Farrakhan. We're going to ban um, Alex Jones, Milo Yiannopoulos. and all that kind of stuff. That's designed to generate positive publicity for Facebook to outweigh all this negative publicity that has been directed towards Facebook. Facebook stocks and all that stuff have taken a turn because of all this negative stuff. So, what better way to make things more positive for Facebook than to throw a Farrakhan under the bus and those other people? And let me be perfectly clear about those other people. Like, first of all, I don't know some of these other people, but when it comes to Alex Jones, I don't have any respect for him. I think as I said before, he's one of these right wing nuts that put out here these ridiculous conspiracy theories, spreading misinformation to people, just telling outright lies, making shit up. So I don't have much respect for him. This guy, because of his ridiculous statements, he had people, you know, like basically harassing those Sandy Hook victims and stuff, the people that had their children killed in Sandy Hook or one of those other things, one of those other shootings. I'm not too clear on which one it was. But it was a recent shooting where this guy was sued for defamation and lies and all that kind of stuff. Making up straight up lies, saying that these people are crisis actors, it's not real, that these mass shootings weren't real. The guy is a charlatan, he's a con man, he's a scumbag and stuff like that. So I don't care that his thing is lost or whatever, that he lost his platform on Facebook, but I'm looking at the larger issue in terms of alternative voices being silenced. Like just as they took him down, they took down a Farrakhan. Just as they take down these so-called white nationalists, they can take down people that are promoting black nationalism or black activism. Just like they're taking down a white nationalist today or a Farrakhan today, tomorrow they could be taking down Black Lives Matter or Sean King or somebody that's speaking out on issues that are important, like a Cornell West or something. They could take them out later. So this whole thing is a deflection. It's designed to put a positive spin on Facebook, give them some positive publicity and all that kind of stuff. Um, and before I go on to my next couple of points, I'm going to look at what you all are saying. There are a couple of points that I want to make before I close out, but I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Yeah, so Miss Red said it's becoming like TV now. Exactly. I mean, TV is so limited in its perspectives. I mean, like I was saying, all you have are the traditional liberals versus the traditional conservatives. So you got Democrats versus Republicans. That's the narrow tunnel vision they want you to have in mainstream media. They don't have any black militants on mainstream media nowadays, or black nationalists, or people that are more radical or socialists, or even Green Party people too much. They don't even give them much publicity. And the only people that they've had to talk about are people that happen to get elected, like people that are far to the left, that I respect, like a Bernie Sanders or Alexandra Ocasio Cortez and stuff like that. So those are the rare exceptions, but for the most part, it's like an echo chamber on television, the same old people on all the same old shows, the same old safe Negro politicians. And we need something more than that, man. If we want to see change, if we want to see a real dialogue about various issues, and as much as I disagree with those ADOS people and all that kind of stuff, that voice is not heard on mainstream media and stuff. And I think that, it just it's very limiting when you decide, well, we're going to regulate and control stuff. I mean, it's going to be so bland and so limited in perspective if Facebook continues to do this. And the next thing I wanted to talk about briefly is like this labeling the Nation of Islam as dangerous. I think that label is ridiculous. But before I go into that, I want to continue looking at your responses. Um, yeah, so earlier I mentioned like how the First Amendment doesn't necessarily apply to this Facebook situation because that's a private forum. It's not a public forum. So Facebook has every right to decide how speech will be regulated on Facebook. Yeah, so yeah, so the other thing I want to talk about real quick is like, this whole label of dangerous. Farrakhan is not dangerous, man. I mean, like despite what people are claiming, like the Nation of Islam hasn't committed any, even though they're labeled as anti-Semitic and stuff like that, they don't attack any Jewish people. There's no history of the Nation of Islam encouraging violence against Jews or engaging in violence against Jews or white people or any of that stuff. The people in the nation are law abiding citizens. In fact, they discourage their followers from bearing arms and using guns and all that kind of stuff. They're a non-violent organization. Despite the fact that, Farrakhan is militant, his rhetoric is militant, the brother is a non-violent person. The Nation of Islam doesn't use violence against white society or anything like that. They create better citizens in this society, citizens that are contributing to society. So this label of dangerous is misplaced. The Nation of Islam is not a dangerous organization. And in many ways, the Nation of Islam is a very conservative organization. They don't pose any kind of threat to the United States of America or to the American people or to Jews or white people, despite the militant rhetoric. So, I think that label dangerous is misplaced. And I think that if they can label Farrakhan as dangerous, then anybody can be potentially labeled as dangerous on Facebook and stuff. They come for Farrakhan now, but at night, but in the morning they're gonna come for us. If they can get rid of him and restrict him and ban him, they can easily ban somebody like me. Easily ban me and other people here on YouTube that have channels and on Facebook and stuff as well. And with respect to Covina man's statements about the Black Authority, Boyce Watkins, and Tariq Nasheed. Now, despite the fact that I disagree with them on many issues and stuff like that, I don't think the way to deal with certain speech is to ban it or to get rid of it. I think what needs to happen is ideas need to compete in the marketplace of ideas. Ideas need to go against each other and let the stronger ideas prevail, the ideas that win based on logic and reason and based on the will of the people. Those are the ideas that should prevail. It shouldn't be up to a private forum to say, well, let me play gatekeeper and keep out certain views from this particular platform. As far as I'm concerned, if someone is not engaging in illegal activity, they're not encouraging violence or other types of criminal activity, then I don't have any objection to their speech being allowed on Facebook, even if it's speech that I oppose or that I vehemently disagree with. I think that people should still be able to express those views on Facebook. And if there's viewpoints that I object to, I don't watch them. You know what I'm saying? I don't subscribe to them or I don't like them. That's part of the answer. And another thing is like, for instance, here on YouTube. Let me just relate it to YouTube. Like there are plenty of people here on YouTube that I disagree with on a lot of issues, that I vehemently disagree with. But I no longer think the answer is to silence them, to block them, and to ban them. There are people I'll block from my channel in a heartbeat, but banning people from Facebook and YouTube is not the answer to address objectionable speech. If there's speech that you object to, All I mean, in terms, I'm just making it plain for YouTube. I mean, just don't watch it. Don't be subscribed to it. That's one thing. Another thing is, if you object to the speech, respond with your own response to the various ideas, debunking those ideas and deconstructing them instead of banning those ideas. Battle those ideas should clash in the marketplace of ideas, not be banned because you disagree with it. That's what should happen. And then also, what you could do is build alternative platforms. If there's messaging that you disagree with, build an alternative voice on YouTube or on Facebook or whatever to challenge those viewpoints. But to silence people and to ban people, that's leading down the road towards dictatorship and a situation where only certain viewpoints are expressed. I mean, like just like the 1984 book where only one viewpoint is accepted and all that kind of stuff. We don't want to live in that kind of society. That's not what democracy looks like. And again, I understand the First Amendment is not affected here. This is not a First Amendment issue when it comes to these private forums, but we have every right to express our objection to this. And I think that we should. We should voice our objection to Facebook. To put Farrakhan in the same category as these white extremists, these white nationalists, to me, that's ridiculous because these white nationalists and stuff have a long history of violence against black people and other groups of people. There was a shooting at a synagogue not too long ago. You had, the situation, all these situations, like the situation in Charleston, South Carolina, with Dylan Roof going in a church, killing 9 people. You had the bombing of that Oklahoma City Federal building. And you have plenty, the other situations where this white supremacist shot these innocent black people at a Kroger's grocery store in the parking lot. You've had the situation where that guy went up to New York City to kill some random black person. So you have all these examples of white supremacist terrorism. That guy that planned a major attack. There was, this guy that was with the National Guard who planned a major terrorist attack. So you have example after example of these people's violence. The history of the KKK, a history of blowing up churches, killing babies, lynching people. So to compare a Farrakhan to any of those groups is way off. And I think that they do that. They throw in a Farrakhan, as somebody was basically saying, to make it seem like they're not just targeting white nationalists and stuff like that. This brother Farrakhan was, the key leader behind the the Million Man March, one of the most significant historical events in America. This brother has done great things despite disagreements people may have with him. And we should not sit back and allow them to basically silence this brother on social media. The old strategy used to be, well, let's demonize Farrakhan in the media. That's what they used to do. Now they're just trying to black him out, to annihilate his voice, to silence his voice, not with guns, but just pretending he doesn't exist by banning him from certain platforms and stuff. And I think that this is only the beginning. And if we sit back and allow this to happen, before we know it, we'll be silent along with Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. The last thing I want to point out before I go is just the blatant hypocrisy of Facebook. Here they are complaining about stuff being dangerous, saying that Farrakhan is dangerous, so we got to get him off of Facebook, saying that these other people are dangerous and stuff. But you see all kinds of violence on Facebook, but they don't have any problem with that. Like the other day, I was looking at Facebook and I saw this video of this woman terrorizing her boyfriend. She had a gun and she was pointing it at him, threatening him with this gun. She actually bust off a few shots in the bedroom, threatening this guy. But Facebook didn't take that down. They let that circulate all day, every day. You got images of people fighting, engaging in all kinds of brutal fights on Facebook. All these video tapes of people engaged in all these brutal acts of violence on Facebook. You got images of violence towards animals and children and all kinds of stuff on Facebook. And yet these people want to complain about something being dangerous. To me, that's hypocrisy. That's ridiculous. And you have disgusting things on Facebook as well. You know, people engaging in all kinds of disgusting things. You know, all this literally disgusting type of video footage of all kinds of despicable things, and yet they want to ban Minister Louis Farrakhan. They want to silence Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I think that that's hypocrisy, man. All the disgusting stuff you see on Facebook, some things are so disgusting on Facebook, I have to hide them from my news feed. I have to press that hide button so I don't have to look at the disgusting stuff. But yet they want to demonize Farrakhan. They want to ban Farrakhan, saying he's dangerous when they got violent stuff all the time on Facebook. So yeah, I just had to hop on here for a second and let y'all know my views on this issue. You know, I support Farrakhan on this particular issue. I think that it is wrong for Facebook to ban him from the platform, from Instagram as well. And, you know, I think it's wrong to ban his supporters as well, his followers, because that's what they're going to do next. They're going to go through, you know, they'll probably go after people like a Ben X next because he uh, constantly posts Farrakhan's materials and other Farrakhan followers and stuff like that. And I just think that that's fundamentally wrong. And in some ways, you could say that that's a form of religious discrimination as well, because the Nation of Islam is a certain faith, they have a certain theology, and they're basically being penalized for having that faith and that theology and stuff. And I think that's wrong. So before I close, I want to see what you all are saying, if you all are adding anything to the discussion. You know, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Um, yeah, so I have a bad internet connection, so I'm going to have to sign out. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content. Please subscribe to my channel and encourage your friends, colleagues, and family to subscribe as well. I'm trying to reach 10,000 subscribers. That's my goal for now. I'm pretty close to it, and I just need your help. So with that, peace and blessings to each and every one of you. I hope that you